The lights were blinding. The crowd deafening. Every time Derrick Rose touched the ball, the arena erupted like a volcano that had waited years to explode. He wasn't just a point guard, he was Chicago's heartbeat. The youngest MVP in NBA history, the savior of a city that had once drowned in Jordan's shadow. And now, he stood on top of the world. A kid from Englewood, who ran with the fire of a storm, ready to take on gods. Every crossover was poetry, every dunk a war cry. He didn't just play the game, he broke it. He was too fast to be guarded, too fearless to be stopped. Defenders froze as he sliced through the paint like a blade through water. Reporters called it destiny. Coaches called it brilliance. Chicago called it hope. But destiny doesn't care for fairy tales. April 28, 2012. Game 1 against the 76ers. The Bulls were up by double digits, cruising to an easy win. The clock ticked down. Rose drove to the basket, one more highlight to end the night. One more moment of magic. But mid-air, time cracked. He came down and didn't get up. He clutched his knee. Not in frustration. In agony. The silence that followed inside the arena was louder than any cheer he'd ever received. Medical staff ran to him, but Rose already knew. He didn't need an MRI. He felt his body betray him in real time. A torn ACL. In his prime. In his moment. Just like that, the dream dissolved. It wasn't just an injury. It was a tragedy. They said he'd be back stronger. But the road back was lonelier than anyone imagined. Rehab wasn't about muscles, it was about demons. The pain wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. The media turned cold. Headlines questioned his heart. Pundits mocked his pace. Fans that once praised his name began to forget it. He returned. Once. Then again. Then again. Each time, another injury. Each time, another piece of himself lost. His knees were no longer his. They belonged to history books and surgeons. The burst? Gone. The fearlessness? Compromised. But what hurt more than the injuries was Chicago. When the Bulls traded him, it wasn't just a transaction, it was a betrayal. He had bled for the city. Carried it through chaos. And yet, when his body broke, so did their loyalty. The press conference announcing his departure didn't feel real. He tried to hold back tears. Failed. "I never wanted to leave," he whispered. The cameras caught his heartbreak, but the world had already moved on. New York was a blur. Pressure mounted. Expectations crushed him. He vanished one day, without warning. Just disappeared. Nobody knew where he was, not teammates, not coaches. Not even family. It wasn't a stunt. It was a breakdown. He sat in a hotel room, eyes swollen, heart hollow, considering the unthinkable, walking away forever. Not because he couldn't play, but because he couldn't feel. The boy who once outran everyone was now trying to outrun the weight of being forgotten. While the NBA celebrated new heroes, Derrick Rose became a ghost. Whispers replaced chants. His name faded from headlines. He wasn't just out of the spotlight, he was buried beneath it. But even in the dark, something inside him refused to die. He wasn't chasing MVPs anymore. He wasn't trying to be the face of a franchise. He was chasing peace. He wanted to play for himself. Not for a city, not for a brand, for the kid from Englewood who once dribbled through danger just to see daylight. And so, alone, long past midnight, he trained. No cameras. No fans. Just a man rebuilding not just his body, but his soul. "I'm not done yet," he whispered into the silence. And for the first time in years, he meant it. Derrick Rose was no longer the lightning bolt who scorched courts with ruthless speed. He was no longer the youngest MVP, the the golden child of Chicago. But what he became was something far greater. He became human, flawed, weathered, and still standing. After disappearing in New York, the whispers grew cruel. They said he was soft, broken, done. But they didn't know what he was enduring. They didn't see the quiet war inside him, the war to stay alive, not just as an athlete, but as a man. Depression clung to him like a second skin. Every morning he had to fight his way out of bed, not for the game, but for himself. But Derrick didn't quit. He showed up. Even when the world had stopped clapping. Even when the highlights stopped airing. He walked into gyms with no reporters, no endorsements, no cheers, just hardwood floors and silent mirrors. And in that silence, he started rebuilding, not to impress the world, but to find the rhythm of who he was again. Cleveland came next. A new jersey. A new role. A new reality. He wasn't the star anymore, he was a piece. An afterthought. And for a man who had once carried the weight of an entire city, shrinking into a supporting role felt like being buried alive. But he smiled through it. Because now, he understood something most players never did: humility. Then came Minnesota. To the outside world, it looked like the end of the road. But to Derrick, it was the beginning of something no one saw coming. Tom Thibodeau believed in him, and that belief, simple as it was, rekindled a spark. Not the fire of dominance, but the fire of redemption. October 31, 2018. A regular season game against the Utah Jazz. The arena wasn't sold out. The stakes weren't high. But for Derrick Rose, it was Judgment Day. He walked onto the court not with swagger but with steel in his veins. And then, he erupted. 1 crossover. 2. Step back. Jumper. Net. Drive. Lay up. Bucket. Fast break. Euro step. And 1. He played with fury and grace, like a man who had wrestled fate and refused to stay down. By the fourth quarter, the scoreboard didn't matter. Because the entire crowd, the entire NBA, the entire world began to realize they were witnessing a resurrection. He didn't just score. He ascended. 50 points. 50. Not from the MVP Derrick. Not from the pre-injury Derrick. But from the man who had been written off by everyone. When the buzzer sounded, he collapsed into tears. It wasn't just a career high. It was a soul victory. The fans chanted his name again, not out of nostalgia, but out of respect. That night, the NBA didn't just remember Derrick Rose, they honored him. But he wasn't done. Detroit. Phoenix. And finally, New York again, this time, not as a broken man, but as a leader. A mentor. A survivor. Young players like Emmanuel Quickley and R.J. Barrett looked at him like a legend, not just for what he did, but for what he endured. He guided them. Spoke to them with the wisdom only pain can teach. And when the Knicks made the playoffs, Derrick didn't sit back. He rose. Game after game, he showed flashes of his old brilliance: smart floaters, sharp passes, cold-blooded buckets. But now, it wasn't about proving people wrong. It was about proving himself right. The media tried to push the comeback narrative. But this wasn't a comeback. It was an evolution. He didn't need to reclaim his throne. He had already earned a kingdom of his own, one built not on accolades, but on endurance. People asked how he did it. How he came back from 3 major knee injuries. How he handled the hate, the memes, the doubt. How he kept his love for the game alive when it had become a source of pain. And Derrick always smiled, soft-spoken, eyes calm. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," he said once. "But all I ever needed was to feel free again." The truth is, Derrick Rose is one of the most misunderstood players in basketball history. Not because of what he lost, but because of what he survived. He didn't end up on Mount Rushmore. He didn't win 5 rings. But in the hearts of millions, he became a symbol of something deeper than greatness. He became a symbol of resilience. Because where others quit, he evolved. Where others collapsed, he rebuilt. And where others sought fame, he found peace. No statue. No farewell tour. No loud declarations. Just a quiet, beautiful truth. Derrick Rose never needed to come back to the top. He just needed to come back to himself.